Hi, Steve Stolberg here with monthly painting video number 74, made in Kuala Lumpur, February 2019. Oh, sorry, 2020. That was a typo left over because I keep reusing the same the same text file. Just let me fix that. 20. There you go. Save. Okay, this month it's a remake of an old Velma pinup I did about 4 years ago. You can see it here. I'm going to start this video. I'm going to change the pose slightly, but not the camera angle. I like it that way. It's fairly low, looking up at her. Still going to be like that, and I'm going to try to keep the lighting the same too. Some kind of strong lighting, strong white light coming from the left, a cool bounce light from the right. All right. Cool meaning bluish. And some props and clothing, same props and clothing, except I'm gonna add a Scooby snack on her thigh. You'll see that. It won't be in the sketch in the beginning, but it will come later. Yes, the mug of something like, probably I like to imagine it's hot chocolate, maybe with a bit of cream on top. I like to imagine it's kind of cold weather outside. That's why she has this heavy sweater on. But it got a little bit too warm, so she took her socks off. Because, you know, she's snuggled up in a big, soft, warm chair, and she's got this hot mug of cocoa. It's making her even warmer. So I do a couple of passes. This is the first pass. I wasn't happy with the leg position there, so as you see, if you do it on a transparent layer, on an empty layer, you'll find it very easy to move stuff around like that. Anyway, this is the second pass, and sometimes this can be the final. Sometimes this can actually be in the. This pass can actually be in the final drawing, final painting, but not this time. This time, I didn't plan it out from the beginning. I wasn't sure. In the original Velma, I have those lines. They're all there in the final image. But in this one, I just, I kind of feel my way. I got carried away painting, you could say, or I just kept on painting until I didn't need the outlines anymore. And that's basically how I operate. You can see, if you've been following me for a few years, you can see that some of these things have outlines and some of them don't, and that, I guess that's often how it is. Also, I guess what weighs in on my decision is if I've done a line drawing recently or not. Then I like to change it up a little bit. Here I was using the ellipse tool there to get a really smooth outline. It's just here, circle tool, ellipse tool. Some parts you don't need to be smooth. The foot doesn't need to be smooth, but the butt and the thighs do really need to be super smooth in the curves, and it can be just more easily done that way. This leg ends up on a separate layer for a while. Just makes it easier to paint in the shadows later. Easier to make the shading later. The rest of her skin, there's 2 layers for her skin. You can see on the right hand side there in my layer stack. Leg and body. The face is on the body layer, and the leg layer has the arm and the other leg. And separate layers for all these, the mug, the sweater, the hair. Just putting in the basic color, flat basic color, and now I'm starting the shading here, as you can see. painting the light on the legs. Starting with a freehand airbrush, which I usually say to never do, but this airbrush is a bit different, and also I will be editing this this whole area more later. So the default airbrush is just very bad. But this one I've changed it a bit, so it's a little bit easier to work with, and I will go in there with other tools. Smudge and other brushes. But first try to lay down the full range of from dark to light. Or close to the full range, because what you can do when everything is on a layer like this, which you've often seen me do in other videos, just hit auto contrast and then fade the auto contrast back to whatever you like. That's a way to extend the range to because I tend to limit the range when I'm painting, so it's not as full from light to dark as it could be, and then that's just a very quick and easy way to extend it out to what it should be. And here I'm putting the light on the same light that's on the legs. I'm putting that on other parts as well, on the chair, the book, the mug, the hair. The highlight on the sweater is going to get yellowish later. But here I'm doing the bluish colored lighting, hitting the knees there, you can see, and the chair and the sweater a little bit, and the mug. And now I'm shading the sweater. So as you can see, as I've mentioned before many times, you start with I recommend you start with an intermediate color, like medium orange for the sweater, medium skin color for the legs, and then you do the highlight and the shadows after that. So start in the middle and work your way up and down, sort of. And basically you can usually break any material or surface or part of the image down into about three, middle, top, bottom, three main ranges of tone. Here I'm working on the face a little bit more, and now I'm working on the glasses, as you can see. When actually the chair, I'm going to grab the chair, which is the background basically. I'm going to grab that background from my previous image, because I spent a lot of time on the original chair, and I don't really see the necessity of just reinventing the wheel there. Detailing the sweater now. Using a fairly rough painterly brush, a little bit of texture there. Trying not to make the sweater look glassy smooth, Trying to keep it interesting and keep it textured. Well, not just interesting, because the sweater has a lot of texture to it, as opposed to her skin and maybe the leather she's sitting on. And I don't put a lot of texture in the hair either. Dark, smoothly brushed hair. But yeah, the sweater is different. And here you can see I'm gradually reaching down further and further to deeper, darker parts. I mean, I don't jump straight from the middle to the darkest. I had an intermediate pass there that maybe you saw. Like if you have 10 degrees from light to dark, I start with 5, and then I did the highlight, which you saw a while ago. I'm going to stop this now because I'm going to explain something about the hair highlight. But talking about the sweater first, I started with this orange, call that 5, this can be called 1, that's the brightest part there. Then I did like 7, which would be here, and then I did like 10, which is this, you know, the very darkest parts. So sort of gradually, I didn't jump from 5 to 10, you know, but I went from like 5, 6, 7 maybe, 10, or 5, 7, 10, and then smudging so that you get a little bit of transition where you need it, you know. You can call this 7 maybe, that part there is 7. This would be 10. 10 is the darkest. I wouldn't use 100% black. That's an error that a lot of beginners do. They go too dark, and they put like this kind of 100% black on everything, and it's hardly it's very dangerous. It's hardly worth putting 100% black anywhere in your image. Like maybe the pupils, maybe on dark hair like this in a crevice, like, you know, where the light doesn't reach like that, or maybe inside the mouth. Not the nostrils. Never put that in the nostrils, because that's, you'll see that later. I try to keep nostrils very light. But anyway, back to the hair. Let's see. It's this sort of ring-shaped highlight which I'm doing here. First I selected, and now I'm sort of painting strokes into it. I'm going to start the recording here. This type of stretched highlight is called anisotropic. If it was isotropic, it would just be a round highlight, like on a smooth ball, like a bowling ball. But this sort of thing is a common trope in anime, manga, and comics. You've probably seen it. But note that it only actually looks like this. I'm going to stop it again. In real life, if the hair is at least somewhat straight and brushed and hanging vertically. Also, of course, it's easier to see when it's dark, but that's a different thing. So it has to be clean and straight and shampooed and conditioned and brushed, and it has to hang vertically, because this highlight goes perpendicular to the direction of the hair. So if this hair was going sideways, this highlight would also tilt. You know, everything would tilt. And if you raise the camera up and she doesn't move, this highlight will start to become a ring, sort of like a halo around her, the top of her head there. Anyway, what I really wanted to talk to you about here is, you can see that I put an orangey warm tone along the top of the highlight, and the bluish tone along the bottom of the highlight. And that is an added little detail that's called the Marshner model, and you can see it here. Go close up. In real life you can see it. It's warmer over here. This is the part closer to the root of the hair, and it's cooler over here, the part that is closer to the tip of the hair. So the light ray comes in, hits the hair, and splits in two. So half of it goes this way and half of it goes down. And this is due to the complex microstructure of the hair that I'm not going to go into why, but this is, as you can see, this is what happens in real life. It looks more metallic over here, and it looks less metallic over here. That's because this is the actual, she has red hair, so her highlight is reddish, and this is a neutral. This goes more towards white. It doesn't go to actual blue. It's just that it looks bluish on you know, compared to the other part of the highlight. Anyway, so much for that, the Marshner model. And I continue to detail the hair. I'm putting in the highlights down here on this part as well, which is much more complex because this isn't brushed straight, creating one smooth layer. It's much more messy down here. And I'm going to add some of the backlighting, or what you can say rim lighting on the hair as well, which is this same light source that's hitting her on her legs and everywhere. So I'm working on a layer below the hair right now, and just selecting areas and filling it with white, just to make sure I have nice and sharp, so it really pops out. Selecting is often a better way to do this, because when you're selecting, you don't see exactly what you're doing. You're kind of working blind a little bit, and so you get a little happy accidents happening. And it's just also it's a very quick way. Here I'm going to grab the chair, the background chair. I'm going to grab it and put it in the new one. And now I'm fitting it to my sketch. And I'm going to use perspective to make the back part. Yep, there it is. I distorted the chair so it fits my sketch there. And now I'm integrating it. I'm going to integrate it here with, you know, with shading and stuff, using overlay. And here I'm doing surgery on her legs. I'm making them a little bit shorter, which I think is more correct anatomically. And now I'm editing the sweater. Wasn't happy with the folds there. They weren't feeling quite realistic to me. And I'm going to add even more texture to the sweater as well. Like general noise everywhere. Also going to be using an even more textured brush than before. Darkening some parts here. Touch of airbrush there. Like I always say, be careful. Not too much, just a touch. I mean, you can probably imagine how much I could ruin this sweater by just using the airbrush from here on in. You know, I would lose all the texture that I had there, all the nice brush strokes. Here I'm using a heavily textured brush to add texture like this. Pops out most in the border between light and dark. So in these strongly lit areas, that's where you can use this kind of brush to really show how textured this material is. And also another thing is you want to use, usually you want to use a lighter color on top of a darker color when you do that kind of operation. Using this dark brown color on a texture brush and pulling that one out here wouldn't have looked as good. Now I'm working on the mug, trying to get some more realistic reflections here. This was a bit tricky. I had to hit and miss a little bit. I had to go back and forth a little bit with moving the reflections around. That's supposed to be the arm, the breast and the arm. It's supposed to be, and the leg at the bottom there. But I'm not quite happy with where these things are ending up there. So I'm gonna tweak it a couple of times. I'm gonna change it a bit. And then after this, I'm going to finish off the face. Yeah, that's a bit better. I mean, it's tricky, but okay. So the glasses are on another layer, so hide them for now. And also the shadow from the glasses, also on the same layer as the glasses. That's important if you want to have the option later to remove the glasses. You know, don't put the shadows on the face. Here I start with a circular selection, roughly paint one eye, copy it over to the other one. Just my quick method to always ensure around irises. And there's nothing strange here. Just filling in the color, refining. Oh yes, and my reference here, I should mention. You'll see them in a minute. As I zoom out, I have two photos open here from famous actresses Sophie Marceau and Monica Bellucci, which have the type of face I wanted here. And also I found these two images that were at the right angle, so a bit from below looking at. Velma's eyes are a bit bigger than realistic, but that can be explained by her glasses making them look bigger than they are, which they do in the animation. Kind of. She supposedly has these nerdy glasses that are very. She's very nearsighted, so they're basically convex lenses which make everything look bigger. Here you see those references I mentioned. Making the eyes a little smaller. And I'm detailing the feet. This is an important part for me, as you may have guessed. Warming up the tone of the darker parts is what I'm going to do after this. First, I'm kind of using a. I think it's a dark brown or just a black, but that produces like a cold sort of temperature. It makes the feet look dirty, sooty, and that's easy to fix after the fact. You just go in there, as you'll see me do, with a reddish color set to color mix mode, and that'll warm things right up quick. What you could also do is use lighten. You can use a very dark reddish brown and go in with lighten, set to lighten, and it'll just hit the darker parts. You don't want everything to glow red. You just want those the things that I just added, the extra shadow that I just darkened. That's the part I want to. Yeah, you can see there. It's a bit warmer there. What I was talking about, and I also have some cooler bounce light there, which I had in the original as well, which I just kept. This cooler bit here, I just think it looks good. It just contrasts the toes a bit more, making them look even warmer. Here's some bounce light here, bouncing up from this area. This isn't bounce light, it's not supposed to be. It's just that knees, joints, elbows, fingers and toes and heels, and sometimes butt, are just warmer in color, because I'm not sure why. Blood vessels may be coming closer to the surface. But anyway, that was it. Now it's starting over again. Thanks for your support, and see you next month.